How do you find real hope after loss without skipping the pain that's still underneath? I'm Susie, and this is Let's Fly, where we talk about honest stories of hope. In part one of my conversation with Erin Prewitt, she shares the story of her husband Chris being killed by an impaired driver, moving through the grief and forgiveness, and protecting her daughter in the middle of all of it. In this part two, Erin talks about dating again, how it was both hopeful and a distraction from the pain she'd been keeping inside. Plus, the moment she finally turned toward herself and asked, "What is this?" That question and the healing work that followed became a huge part of her journey back to herself. Let's jump back in. Hi, I'm Susie Schumacher, and welcome to the Let's Fly podcast, where I dive into the real stories behind life's hardest experiences. The stories of people who showed up as themselves, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't, but they made the choice to keep going. Real stories, honest conversations, and how they found the courage to find hope. Let's fly! One of the big things that you did decide to do too is love again.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of rules around that. So if you could touch on that, how did you found love again?
I did, which is not shaped the way I thought it would be. Like when I like if you could have told me what my life would be like. So Izzy, I actually dated probably earlier. As my therapist said, you're more of a widower in dating than you are a widow. I was like, tell me more. She's like, widowers date faster. And I was like, oh, because I was totally like, should I not? I don't know, maybe. And then I don't even know what. I think part of me, in retrospect, I was avoiding some of the. I was like Izzy, wanting to watch a movie. Yeah, I needed a distraction, and I think I dated. And I don't even make myself wrong for dating earlier because I like who I've become. Right. I like the life I've shaped, and it took probably a messy process. Ultimately,
well, how long was it from the time you became
less than a year?
Okay.
So he died, and which is crazy. Even my partner, who today is like, you freak me out. If I die, I feel like you're gonna fall in love. Like 6 months later, he calls me out, and I'm like, I don't know,
he's gonna haunt you. Yeah, I love that. That's great. He's like, I know you're not gonna fall.
And I'm worried you're gonna fall into like a hole and never come out. And he's like, you should be. That's called love. He's like, that's really commitment. You need to work on that. Like we tease each other. Right. So I started to date, and I definitely was talking to my therapist, and she was like, maybe we shouldn't tell Izzy. And I think for me, it was a little bit like distraction.
Okay.
And a little bit also like hope. Like, can I have, like, how do I do this? And my therapist was so good. I really recommend if anyone has really a way to maybe guide finding a therapist is someone. My therapist interfaced with hospice. She was trained in that space, and I think it made her really compassionate. And ultimately, I think too is I wanted to feel like I could keep living in a way, like I could love again, I could feel hopeful, I could have a family. Like I was like, I'm one of 5 kids, so having one kid, we made a conscious choice to have a small family. We didn't really expect to have one child. We kind of thought 2 with one, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be, before I know it, I'm gonna be by myself. Okay, how do I feel about that? Do I want to be by myself? And ultimately, I think because of the work I did on myself, and I think the real long game of the work I did was falling in love with myself again. Falling in love, like letting myself be as authentic in the world. Right. And inside that, I was honest with myself and the world, and dating is like, I want to be in love again. I want to be in a relationship. Right. And I don't have a clue on how to do this. And that was probably the messiest thing I was doing. And for me, I love when people are messy. Like, not messy, like aggressive, but like messy when they're like floundering on their back and they're like, I feel like that's where our humanity is. Right. So,
can't fake it.
Even though I felt like a dumbass a good third of the time, and I did things that I was like, what was I thinking? I was constantly using being myself and being
Right.
honest that I wanted to fall in love, like be in a loving relationship. So
Right.
dated, went online dating. I'm a big fan of that. Sue knows that. Went on dates, was really honest, straight, fell in love one time, dated a couple other people, at all these personalities. None of them were like Chris. So my family and friends felt like they were on a bus
Interesting.
of like, they're
Well,
like,
I would hate to be the next guy. You know what I mean? Like after, I mean, can you imagine?
yeah.
Like, can you imagine the
Oh,
pressure of that?
he hated it,
Oh
and
my
this isn't
gosh.
even my partner. I fell in love with someone
Oh my
that
gosh.
was just like, "What the hell?" I feel like there's Saint Chris, and then I'm this dumbass
That's
that came out of, like, the sewers, and I had a lot of
it.
compassion. I'm like, "I know. I don't know what to do about that." And there's been people, like, looking at him like, "What are you doing here?" Eventually, when I wanted to, like, bring him around, and they were like, "This is not Chris." And I'm like, "Well,
Interesting.
no, shit, it's not Chris." Like, that's and what I'm proud about myself for, I think inside the dating space is I'm proud I didn't date to please people. I wanted
Mm,
people to get along. I had a good community. So it wasn't like I was trying to I didn't want them to hate the person, but I couldn't, especially I think for people who end a relationship, divorce or lose a
right.
partner, I can't fill that role again. I'm not going to fill the role for them, people I love. I'm going to fill it for
Oh,
me.
got it. Okay.
And that's not an easy, especially if the people loved who you were with and then
Right.
whoever you bring to the table is just it's compared. And I just was like, I can't do that for you. And again, I gave them the words like how you can love me is you get to
Right.
choose your relationship and and if you like them or not, but be as open, do the work that you could be as open that I deserve to be in a relationship
Right.
again. And if they're a good human, kind, that's the test
Well, what was, oh,
to
go ahead.
judge them from, not are they like Chris?
Well, what was the conversation like when you went to the community and said, I'm dating again? Because I think people would be very interested because if they want to do that, they want to, what? How that? What do you say?
There was
Because there's all kinds of baggage that comes into the room. Yeah, because everybody's
yes.
like, wait, I'm not done. I'm not ready, you know? Or also,
So
if you did you ever feel like the guilt, like where you have every right to do what you want to do, but there's all this labeling that society puts on things that there's not you haven't grieved enough. But what is that? Which I think is beautiful. Again, that you did it your own
yeah.
way. But how would that take us to that room when you walked in and told the community, "Hey, I'm going to go start dating."
I did it in chunks. So it wasn't like I walked into
Okay,
all the community. I more
you
chunked it
spoon
out.
fed it.
Please, yes.
Okay,
Here's what
smart.
I said. I do well to. I think this is the trainer in me. Is I like have it. Maybe it's a shock fast factor, but it's a little bit of like claiming space. And I was like, "Listen, I'm
Oh,
dating,
okay.
and aren't you glad that I'm choosing to live
Claim
over
space.
over
Okay.
dying?" That's all I see is like I'm either gonna get smaller in the world and pull away,
Mm,
and it doesn't mean I have to be dating, but how I'm choosing to express myself is date, look for love again. And I'm
right,
doing it for me, not for Izzy, not for anyone. I'm doing it for me. And I was like, and how you could support me is just make space. Make space for my
right.
process because it's not gonna like I'm imagine it's not gonna be pretty. I like anticipated it would be, like watching people, my friends and family date. I was like, oh, that is
Right.
messy. Chris and I were pretty, pretty like we met, fell in love, did almost all the
Right.
things that are traditional, and this was not going to be traditional. Which it was like I had this experience with Chris. I was literally going the opposite direction. I got some that were like disappointed in me, and I
Okay.
was like, "It sounds like you need a therapist because I'm not talking about this with you. Like, I already have
Right.
to deal with Chris dying. I don't want to deal with your
Mhm.
judgment about my life." And I got like judgment. Like I really and I had to also own my own I had judgments. I was like,
Mhm.
"Dang." The way I thought of people in
Right.
spaces based on what I had. There was
Mhm.
such a softening in me and a like like no one gets to have the story go. Like it's not the love story they wanted. Oftentimes it's the love story
Right.
they got. And it was probably tougher in some ways with some relationships. And then part of me wanted like whoever I dated to fit in. Like I wanted them to be
Right.
close to my friends. Even though Chris and I had built those friendships together,
Right.
I wanted the man to fill the role in some ways too of what I had with Chris. Like we traveled with friends. We did workshop trainings together.
Right.
And so I dated, and ultimately I eventually met Carl, which I
Okay.
still can't believe. I liked Carl. Like I was just like, what the hell? And I never liked the name Christopher because I was like, who names himself from Christ? Like that's just arrogant. I'm Erin. I'm from Ireland. Like that's not even exciting. So I meet Carl and I was like, Carl. And I was like, okay. And ours was a much slower burn than Chris's. And
Okay.
Carl had 2 children.
Okay.
So I have one, he has 3, and they were younger than mine. And Izzy made one request. She's like,
Mm.
Mom, or 2 requests. One is, if you know you're going to fall in love, can I meet the man?
Okay.
And 2, please let me be the baby of the family. So when I met Carl,
Mm.
Izzy was going to be the oldest. If this took off,
Oh,
and she was like, what the hell? I only had, like, pretty much, I only had 2 requests for you, lady. I could deliver on the one. The other one was like I went from, so when she met them, she was 13 when she
okay.
met, and he had a 8, 6, and 3-year-old. And I was
3 year
like,
old.
and so I teased it, yeah.
Wow.
I was like, you were not only a breeder, you were a late breeder. Like, if I fell in love with you and we build a life, I'm gonna be almost 60
Mm.
before the last one is out of the house. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, that is poor life planning, in my opinion. Poor life planning. So
Well, well, with
ultimately,
Izzy, well, I'm sorry, I just want to go back with Izzy making her 2 requests, which I love. But bring us to that moment when you were telling your daughter that you're going to date again, because I think that people could learn from that. Because the fact that
yeah,
she responded that way with requests was fascinating. I love that.
yeah. The first one was like, I want to meet him. I think she kind of probably figured that out with her therapist because sometimes she
Okay.
could get to it really quick. And I was like, oh, this sounds like you got a little, like, you were able to bounce it
Okay.
off someone.
Will help.
Yeah. And then because I had dated and she had met
Well,
2
how
guys,
did you, what the first, when you decided to date, how did you handle it? I mean, did you say,
I was like,
like,
I
bring us
met
back to that moment?
someone. Gosh, I barely remember it. Probably because I was like, this
Oh,
was
so
like, I
she
don't know
didn't
if I was,
know that you were out there on the
no,
dating
she
app.
didn't have
You
a
were
clue.
only so it only was when you met someone that you were really interested in.
What I
Got
really
it.
liked,
Okay.
yeah. And I think that what I learned from that is I was trying to get us like to click and like,
Mm,
oh, and here's who we could be. So she was like, okay, who is he? Oh, and his kids were teenagers and they wanted pretty much nothing to do with her. And so she felt
mhm.
like this. And then I was like, crap. I think I was more of a fixer and I'm a middle child of
Okay.
5. So I think I was trying to make it
Okay.
all work. And then
Yeah.
something happened that I was like, I am doing too much work to try to make this work. And once I stopped, and I would listen to
Hmm.
Izzy, she's like, Mom, I don't necessarily want to hang out with the kids. And I was like, okay. So she was the baby in that position, in that relationship, but they didn't want to really deal with her. I mean, they did and didn't. It was like a, push pull.
Well,
And
they're
so I
probably going
pulled
for their
back.
own stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got it and I pulled back. And then I think that's when the relationship started falling apart was once I stopped trying to keep it together and try to get her to like him, like I
Hmm.
just let people fall where they were. And then in that I was like, I want someone that works harder for this.
Mm,
I I don't know, and I had to grieve. Oh, so I had to grieve the idea that I could replace Chris. I could give Izzy. I didn't want to replace Chris. I
mm,
wasn't there, but I was like, wouldn't it be neat if she's like, I have this bonus dad that came into my life.
mm.
And
Okay.
what I got, and it took this man, he told me, he's like, I don't know if there's room for a bonus dad. She has so many people, especially and men, like my dad,
Hmm. Yeah.
uncles, my best friend's husband, like he's like, they're all aspects of Chris. I don't think she wants or needs someone. It's gonna be sprinkles. It's not gonna be, and I remember being like, having to grieve that, like, oh, I don't get to rebuild a traditional family.
Mm,
And that was like, shit, like that was a letdown. Like that was like a,
right.
oh. And then that relationship ended. And then I just kind of dated on and off. And, well, I would date, I would learn something. And what I want to acknowledge too is I did have my first experience of really falling for someone who did not feel the same way back. So I'll be honest, it's not honest, but I don't know if I'm tooting my own horn, but if I did really well in dating. And I think I did really
Okay.
well. Like I could go into dates and I knew most likely the guys were going to like me. It wasn't because of the way I was shaped, the way I looked. It wasn't like was a sugar mama. It was I was straight and I showed up really
Mhm.
authentically me. And I
Okay.
was like, why did you do that? Or I like this. I would just be straight of who I was and how I wanted to date. Then I hit a guy that was like, I really liked. There was so much chemistry, but didn't like me. Basically, bottom line, did not like me the same level I liked him. And
Okay.
when I hit that juncture, I had a meltdown of
Mhm.
who I knew myself to be.
Right.
And I also went through a place with I had a business partner at that
Okay.
time who was also like, I don't want to do business with you. So I was like
Mm.
rejected, like boom, boom.
Okay.
And I hadn't had that. I never faced that. And I think it was like I had built myself up and I'd gotten to a really good place. And I felt literally like I was crashing to the same depth when Chris
Right.
died.
Right.
That's not the truth, but that's how it felt. And so
Right.
I was like, okay, I got to go back into, I don't know if it's therapy. And I did this course called the Hoffman process,
Mhm.
which is a beautiful space of retreat, but it's like spiritual, psychological, looking at family systems, but really, and while weaving in connecting to your own knowing and your own spirituality. And so I was like broken in my own way and just struggling. I went into this course and I walked out of the course with this sense of I love myself
Right.
and I might have to give up how I'm going to have the life I want or how it's going to
Right.
happen, but I know I deserve it and
Right.
I'm going to be the first one to give it to myself. And out of that, loving myself really well, life will just blossom around me. And I just kept coming back to that. Like life will blossom if I
Right.
just keep loving myself. So there was some course correction with Izzy. Like it was like, nope, mom doesn't do that. Like I'm taking care of myself. So it was definitely impacting her. And then dating, I don't know exactly how I'm gonna say a year or so. I met Carl, maybe a year and a
Okay.
half. And he was like, so Carl's from Minnesota, and he said how you dated was such a straight shooter. Like, nope, don't do that. Yep. I like that. I don't know about that. What do you mean? Like, he was like, you just were like, these questions are boring. I don't really like, he was asking me questions, and I was like, he said, you were charming, you were fun. And then I was asking questions, you're like, well, this is kind of boring. I date because I want to have fun. And he was like, okay. So he goes, I got flirty. And then you're like, well, I'm not having sex with you on a first date, just to be clear. And he's like, Erin, dating you was like, move, ooh, okay, not that way. Ooh, like you were so assertive and clear. And you would change your mind or you would say, no, that's not what I meant. I meant this. He's like, I just appreciated that. And I
Right.
feel he's like, my experience with women is they held back so much and they didn't
Mm.
share or I didn't know what to do and I wasn't sure, so I took ideas from other relationships and I applied it and we never
Mm.
talked about like, is this working, does this land? And he's
Right.
like, you didn't do that. And I think I leveled up on being clear of who I was, trusting the right people will come to me or the right
Mhm.
person will come to me because I'm just being me. Like that's my true north. It's not like I'm always me. I'm like, swaying, sway, but I course
Right.
correct.
Well, I think that people, I mean, it's good that you shared that, you handled a lot of the challenges of the loss, but then there was a moment where you were like, okay, I need more, I need some more work. And you did it.
Mhm.
Because I think people think, it's a one shot deal, you know, that whole 6 months after death, I did it, I'm done. And there's no expiration date, And so
Yeah.
I love that I mean, you have access to a lot of information about coaching and resources,
Mhm.
but it's still, you made the decision to go in there. And my sense is that within that decision is when you were ready to really feel that level of pain
Yeah.
about the death and other things in your life. And that's where it's important to share that you went in and you did it. And sometimes it doesn't, it could be years later, 10 years later, even in the midst of deciding to date, you still had that self-awareness. And I love that you talk, the main thing is you,
Yeah.
you take care of you
Yeah.
first.
And it's funny you said that too, because I
And I
think I
love that.
forgot that when I did the course, one of the things that
Yeah.
came up for me that I hadn't dealt with is I had feelings of being abandoned by Chris. Like the
Mm,
little girl in me,
mad. Yeah.
the woman in me knew he was killed, but the
Right.
little girl in me was like, regardless of how he died, he left you. And I
Right.
don't think I let her express. I didn't know there was needing
Mm,
to express feeling like left behind.
right.
Yeah, like now I'm on my own,
Right.
I have to do it myself. And that really was transformative to kind of walk through those feelings. And I did it at the time that I needed to do it. And it was profound to know there was parts of me that needed tending to, that interpreted things. And I didn't always have to be logical. I didn't always have to be purposeful. I could be
Right.
just pissed,
Right.
sad, and that those were equal to feeling
Right.
purposeful. Like that was a mind bend for me. Like, wait a minute, I could just be pissed off that he left me is as valid as purposeful that in the response to him leaving me. And that was a new way of seeing myself.
Right.
And it made it easier to be more authentic, and it
Right.
made it like it made it I also like parts of me. There's different types of therapies that look at this, like there's parts, but it was like, oh, okay, like really just loving all parts of me. and
Right.
and that was who, because I had no idea. I didn't know. I knew I felt abandoned. I
Right.
had no idea that what I found out was I had felt abandoned prior to Chris dying. Like growing up with 5 kids, I
Mm,
felt left behind at times.
right.
So when he passed, that just like that was my wound, right? That really got
Right.
pushed. And I coped and I did therapy, I did a lot of things. And then when it got pushed like again on a deep level, it was like, okay, hold on. You're again on the
Right.
floor, losing your
Right.
shit. What is this that has you feel so abandoned? Because I knew it wasn't Chris died. It's not that bad, but the wound felt that bad. So I was like, okay,
Right.
there's some work here.
Well, and that's huge that it's you ask that question and may put the finger pointing at you.
Mhm.
Where I think sometimes when we feel the wound, it's looking outwards.
Yeah.
And you just get that story is beautiful because even the loss of Chris guided you to a place where you really got to the core of the pain
Mhm.
and the abandonment that came up, which is an emotion that's really painful.
Yeah.
But then even from that coming back, like, I don't know, this is a great story because it's it was, there's all these, the highs and the lows, but this is the thing is that it's not a one shot deal. It's not reading a one book or a couple months of
Mhm.
inner look or any, looking inside.
Yeah.
And I want to take this moment to really honor you for that
Oh, thank you.
because I don't think that, and then you take that experience and you also have a lot of training as a coach
Mhm.
that it's a great example for people out there that have been through loss. Because I would think also when you lose your partner, it's the end of a dream.
Mhm. Yeah.
And like you said, wait a minute, that's not, this is not what this wasn't the plan.
Yeah.
And then, so when you came back from that, retreat or the process of the Hoffman experience, is that when you ended up meeting Carl? Was that
Yeah.
before or after? Okay.
No, it was after. I think it was a little practice, right? So I felt this
Right.
profound shift, an ability to
Right.
feel, and then it was practicing. And then when I met Carl, I liked him. I was attracted to him. What really stood out to me was his ability to respond to my needs.
Okay.
Like he could hear me. Like he was not trained. Well, first of all, like
Was not trained.
No, he comes from like the world of like he worked in like corporate like Fed. He worked in like he was at that point he was what, an insurance agent. And so he's a numbers guy, he's a sports
Okay.
fan, he's one
Hmm.
of four boys, and he's from Minnesota. So stereotypically he is like get things done, do the thing,
Okay. Right.
provide. And then I come along and I'm like, well, how do you feel about that? Like, that really hurt my feelings. How did that feel
Oh,
for you? And
that's
he's like, I feel like we should probably, I will not do it again. I feel. Okay, feel. Does it matter what I feel? Yes, it does. And I think he didn't present, Chris had access to so, like, when we met younger,
hmm
that he was a different character. And I could see bubblings of with Carl was if he can see what I need and he can adjust to it, that doesn't abandon himself, right?
hmm
And I felt very safe with him. He was definitely a protector.
Okay.
And that was something I think I didn't Chris wasn't a protector. Chris was like, is it different flavor? And I just yeah, and I think we just learned a lot of compromise, a lot of communication. We're very different. And I would constantly say to him, and I still say to him, I love myself too much to blah blah blah. I love myself too much to abandon myself. I love myself too much to not to ignore this. And he's like, I'm so glad you declare you how much you love yourself. That like yay.
Well, what was when the first meeting of the kids? Like, how did that go? Because the
Oh,
other
that was
story you were talking about was for someone else, right? Or in the
yeah, yeah,
earlier
yeah.
days.
So yeah,
So
that
how
was
did that go down?
so this we waited a little longer and he has an
Okay.
ex, so he's divorced. So in his
Okay.
head it's like I've got to manage that. You don't have to
Right.
manage that. So we
Oh, that's
waited
interesting. Yeah.
6 7 months or something where we brought the kids in. I mean, Izzy had met him a little bit before when we brought them
hmm
together, and Izzy and I met the kids together with Carl,
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
and it was chaos. It was it was like or there his oldest, like he had never done this. I had a little experience, but and his kids were excited very much around Izzy, like, oh, because she was like
Aw.
12, 13, but like a little bit like the alien too, like who are you, but excited.
Okay.
And we decided to meet at a park. His
Okay.
son was climbing to the top of the park, the structures, and Izzy kept being like, Carl, he's gonna die. Carl, get him down, he's gonna die. And Carl's like, he's gonna be okay. And then his oldest was just talking, you like this? Do you like this? Like she was trying to find some bonding, but she was like
Aw.
asking Izzy tons of questions. And then the little one was 3, like just
He's like,
wherever
whatever. I'm
hang.
gonna go on the swing, play some sand. Yeah.
And then Izzy, I think ultimately, if I were to put a book title on it, was That's a Lot. Like how I'm not sure about
hmm
this. This is a lot of people. And then Carl's the stoic, kind of like he
hmm
gets things done, but he's like, oh, did you get your sandwich? Like he's not like, Izzy, how do you feel? He's like, have you eaten? Do you need me to throw away the trash? Like, and I'm the everyone. Oh, did you know they do this? They like
hmm
soccer. I'm the connector. What I can
Yeah.
say is our journey has been like this because we're together 7 years later.
Right.
And our journey, we made very conscious decisions to put the kids first, to love
Okay.
each other, but put the kids first. Oops, sorry about that. My dogs agree. But when we put the kids first, that puts like, oh, we're getting married. Oh, we're doing this. Traditional is off the table. Like how I
Right.
grew up was fall in love, get married, have a house. Like we mixed it all up. But what I could say is 7 years later is for my daughter, who's now in college and just got roommates, second year in college, her roommates looked at me and said, we're grateful she had siblings. She is such a good roommate because she's the oldest.
Oh, interesting.
And because she shares, she talks things through, she just kind of tries harder to make everyone feel comfortable but also speak up, because speaking up is not hard was not hard for my kid. She was an only child, it was all about her. But
Right.
the 3 years before she went to college, when we moved in together, was her becoming living with a community and compromising.
Right.
And as much as, having a teenager, by the time we moved it, whatever, she was like in high school, it was not easy.
Right.
But at the same way, kind of circling back was like, what's the purpose?
Right.
My kid became kinder and became more of a team member and
Okay.
community driven in her actions and the way she was, that I think is beautiful. And I'm
Right.
grateful to the younger three shaping her that way. And
Well,
I
did
think,
she have her own? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, and I think her gift to them is being more thoughtful. Like you can't come from me and not be like a mindful movement, because they would be like
Right.
slam a door in your face and like, why'd you do that? Say sorry. Why would I say sorry? I meant to slam the door in your face. Like,
That's facts right there.
did I
Well,
look
I
like
just
I
wanted to
cared?
know what, but the other part too is that Izzy is responsible for being this good person, but also you are. And
Mhm.
again, acknowledge that because when I'm listening to, did you guys cohabitated too? Because it's
Yeah.
another thing people, I'm sure, do really well or don't do well. Because when I first heard we decided to put the kids first, I
Yes.
think that's really important.
Yeah.
And but how did that work with, I know with child stuff, I don't have kids, but one person gets them for some time, the other person gets them. So basically
Yeah.
they were going to have to stay the night. How did that, like blending them in that way? Because I'm just thinking of Izzy where I'm like, excuse me?
And this also happened during COVID. So at the end of like
Oh,
we
wow.
met, so
Okay.
then there's COVID, and I'm convinced we're gonna all be locked in our houses. So
Yeah.
I'm like, how it kind of expedited. So we had been together a year and a half, maybe just shy of 2 years,
Right.
dating, and just him in his place. He's a 50% dad, so he has the kids 50% of the time.
Okay.
I have her 100% of the time. And it bringing him together, it was
Mm.
definitely like, oh, so COVID, I was like, we're gonna get told we're gonna have to
Wow.
stay somewhere. So Carl brought the kids over to my house, and we were there, and it was a lot of us time, like a lot of
Mm.
family time, and
So it kind of worked out.
yeah, and it was messy, it was hard. I think what, and I want to acknowledge Carl. Carl does not scared of the truth. He's not
Okay.
scared of saying like that doesn't work. Like he just like I sometimes would like want to hold back like some of what's a good example. Carl would be like, "Well, that sucks," or "That's crap," or "You did it like that behavior doesn't work," and I would be like, "Hey, have you considered what we could do?" And he was just not scared that of people's feelings, the
Right.
truth,
It's a good
and
balance.
what?
It's a good balance. The
Yeah.
two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very different.
Right.
And so we just learned to like weave that together, and the kids I think just, and I was a dose of something completely different. I'm very different than Carl. I'm very different than the mom. And I also, though, for anyone looking at blending, I think I also got clear they don't need a mom. They have a mom.
Right. I'm
I need to
glad you're
be
saying this.
I'm the filler of whatever is needed. So
Right.
I don't, if there's something like they need a ride, okay, I can do that. Mom, dad can't do it. If they need like a soft place to land, but I really was like developed with them in a way that's hard for me, that wasn't hands on.
Right.
It was a very hands off or standing on the sideline like an auntie. And I was like, I'm going to be the best bonus because they've got what they need, and I don't need to enforce my will on them. I just need to be there when they need me. I will always tell, like, I love you guys. I love you. I'm here. Do you need something? But I'm not trying to be something they already have. And what they already have is very different from me. And I
Right.
think that there was more for me to learn in blending the family than the kids had to learn from me, I think. That was a
Right.
new growth that I'm really grateful that Carl and I've figured it out. There was times that I
Mhm.
wasn't sure. There was definitely when we did blend a few months later, I was ready to like peace out, not do it. Like
Right.
I was a whisper away from like not doing this. And it took Carl and I to come together and address things in our relationship, and then how we were going to do things. And what I remember is I want to, one of the things is I having my parents were married, still
Mhm.
are, they're alive, they're married. And one of the things I got modeled to me is hard work in relationships. Like sometimes
Okay.
people think like, well, it's the relationship that's the breakdown. It's not what I'm bringing to the table. Like it's them, not the relationship, not me. Like it's like if I go somewhere else, it'll get better. And
Right.
my parents were like, "Listen, you're taking you wherever you go. So why don't you figure that out in where you are? And if you end up
They're
that it doesn't
taking
work."
you wherever you go.
And I was up against that with Carl. Like, okay, have I done everything I can and asked him to do everything he can to see if we can make this work. And so I stayed. In the sense of like, I stayed. Okay, we need this. And he showed up in a new way that I needed. And we started reshaping the relationship and reshaping the household. So I felt like I needed the household to be more tender, more soft, more like sensitive. Like they might not be, but like, how can we get there? And it
Right.
started with Carl and I. And sometimes it was literally like just like one climb at a time.
Right.
I would just pull out and look at the progression. Are we moving the needle? We are. Okay. I know over
Right.
time this is what love looks like. It's really working together and moving the needle. It's not a quick transformation all the time, rarely probably, but I lean into you, you lean into me, and love is it's a behavior. It's like, I will show you love by doing this and working with you on this. And so I'm very proud of the family we've created. It is not what I thought it was going to be. It is I romanticize the hell out of this. It is not, this romantic,
Right.
easy all the time. You put 4 kids in a family, you're not going to get easy. But what
Right.
I can say is Carl and I, what we do get is we get to become better humans. I cry. Like, these kids make me a better human. And I feel like I have a
Right.
partner who's like in it with me and is very protective. And I'm very kind, and I'm the connector and he's the protector. And that's kind of how we've
It's a good
navigated
combo.
it.
Well, I mean, I think it's important for people to hear that it's not this fantasy, because people will go, "Oh, she found love again. That's so
Yeah.
beautiful." Or, they all live in the house. It's all cute and
Lifetime is not
protected.
calling me up or
Yeah,
Hallmark to say
yeah.
it all. No,
Well,
I'm
I
going
don't
to get.
think, but I think, but this is what I want people to really hear. Love is the fact that you and Carl decided to sit down and have the real conversation
Mhm.
about what you need. Like you said, you were a whisper away. I was a whisper away to say about. And I think a lot of people, I mean, this is a very common dynamic in the world,
Mhm.
blending families. And so, when you were that whisper away, it sounds like you just made the decision to, like, where you show up you wherever you are. And I think that's important. It's not about changing everything about you to make someone else feel
Mhm.
better or love you. To me,
Mhm.
that's real love. How you
Yeah.
both made the decision, put the kids first, which that's a hard one too. And but sit down and have the conversation and what works, what doesn't
Yeah.
work, and F up and say, oops, I guess that plan didn't really work that well. But because you
Yeah.
both are that foundation,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
abandonment is that wound, and you have this man who is a protector, but also obviously loves you. But I think what I love the best is that it sounds like he respects who you are.
Yes. He is. So I do a bunch of things to check in with my knowing. Like, I do a little exercise, like, ooh, what does I feel? So this year
Right.
I started fantasy. He started a fantasy football league so I could join because I
Okay.
wanted to do it. And he's like, hey, do you want to trade this person? And I'm like, hold on. And I do my little practices. And he's like, and I'm like, nope, not trading. He's like, wait, that's how we make decisions. And he's so like, he's just
Well, explain what that means. Your knowing
so
practice. Explain what that means.
I started finding this prior to Chris dying. It was like I was trained as a child, and I think many of us are. Middle child, 5 kids. I grew up in a Catholic religion, Catholic school. So we were told, or I was told, how you do it right is you look to the outside world. They tell you, do ABC, that's what you do. Then that's the right way.
Right.
And then somewhere I learned in my late 20s, like, that's not landing for me. And so I started learning, and mostly from mindfulness, meditation, certain practices, to go in and find out what the answer was inside me and not go outside. So I do little things where it's breath work, where I'm breathing. I might meditate. Sometimes there's a whole body. You can check your body and the way it leans.
Right.
I do these little things when I'm not sure. And I'm like, where's the answer inside me? And then I'm like, ooh, I found it. Okay, this is the answer. And that is a freaking game changer. Like, if I could give
Okay.
people one thing to, like, how do I live a more contented life?
Right.
Happiness, in my opinion, is, it's like a fart. You walk through it, it smells like it's like great, but it doesn't stay. It's like,
Right.
but contented and peace, those have more of a lasting. I
Right.
would say figure out how to go in to your knowing, to your answers. And in there, the next step, the choice will be the right one for you. And regardless of what the world thinks, like really it's free from that. And then I say, when you go in and you find the answer and what's right for you, the world will adjust to how you move. And to me, that is the most profound way to move in the world that leads to like a satisfied, contented, peaceful life.
That's beautiful. Beautiful way to end it.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. You
I
got
can't
me
wait.
all the feels, Sue. You got all the feels out of me.
I mean, you'll be back because there's a lot of other topics that I want you back on. But I mean, literally, so many times during this interview, I really felt that energy of
Mm,
someone's going to listen to this, and you've helped somebody.
mm,
Know
I
that,
hope so.
and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Erin, thank you for sharing so openly about all of it. Grief, dating again, blending families, and the moments where you had to face that deep abandonment pain instead of outrunning it. If you missed the conversation in part one, check out the link in the description. This episode wraps up season one of Let's Fly. This whole season has been about real hope, the kind that walks through the hard, messy parts of being human and still believes there's a life worth building on the other side. Thank you for listening, for sharing these stories, and for letting them land wherever you need them. I'll see you next season. Let's fly.